We and our investigative post partners have spent a lot of time digging into issues with the Buffalo Police Department. Accusations of racism against officers in leadership positions, plus institutional biases, along with questionable police-involved shootings. All of that once again prompting a call for federal intervention. Some of those suing the police department want to see something happen here that's happened elsewhere around the country. Here's investigative post reporter Geoff Kelly.
Recent court cases paint an unsettling picture of the Buffalo Police Department. Two current officers claim their captain let fly a racist rant, then punished those who complained. A retired police lieutenant testified that he and other officers used racial slurs while on the job and faced no discipline for doing so. That testimony is part of a lawsuit accusing BPD of an ongoing pattern of racially discriminatory policing.
People of color in Buffalo are still stopped and ticketed at highly disproportionate rates. They're stopped for no or little reason or pretextual reason and given more tickets on average than white folks are given.
Attorney Anjana Malhotra represents people who say those stops often led to unconstitutional searches and seizures, unjustified arrests, and sometimes violence, with little or no consequences for officers accused of misconduct. Then there's this. In the past 5 years, 4 men of color have died during encounters with Buffalo police. 3 of them were shot to death. In other cities like Cleveland, Baltimore, and Ferguson, Missouri, police killings and allegations of civil rights violations have led to federal intervention. And that's what Malhotra's plaintiffs want to happen here.
We would like to see the city under a consent decree and monitored and by a court and a community-based kind of organization that ensures that the Buffalo Police Department is adhering to constitutional standards. We'd also like to see real meaningful reforms.
A consent decree is a legally binding agreement. It lays out a program of reforms a city must undertake. The agreement is lifted only when an independent panel of monitors says the city has met its goals. There are 2 ways to get a consent decree. A judge can order one as part of the settlement of a lawsuit, or the Justice Department can impose one after conducting an investigation. Over the past 25 years, the Justice Department and federal judges have established consent decrees in dozens of cities. Many police departments resist the feds meddling in their affairs. Some welcome the probes.
Some chiefs actually see this as a real opportunity for them to penetrate through some of the barriers that they've experienced in trying to do stuff that they've already wanted to do.
Jonathan Smith used to head the Justice Department team that investigated police departments and compelled them to change their ways. An investigation can take as long as a year. Negotiating a consent decree can take another 6 months. Most police departments get out from under supervision after 4 or 5 years of work, but a handful of consent decrees have lasted 20 years and counting. Smith cautioned that consent decrees don't always improve community trust in law enforcement.
It's not going to bring a best practices police department. It's not going to bring a police department that is going to be transformed in the way that community activists might want a police department to be transformed. It is going to create a constitutional, lawful police department.
Attorney Miles Gresham sits on a panel tracking efforts to improve the Erie County Sheriff's management of county jails. Those reforms are the result of consent decrees imposed by the Justice Department more than a decade ago. He said consent decrees are just one tool in the police reform toolbox.
What I'd really like to see come out of it is a change in the political will to discipline bad police and racist police effectively. A consent decree is not going to get us there. But again, it could be a tool in the toolbox.
Smith said a key to a successful consent decree is buy-in, beginning with the police department's leadership and its rank and file, as well as elected officials and the community.
Unless you engage the communities that are most impacted by law enforcement practices, it's very hard to get effective and durable remedies.
The city has paid out nearly $20 million over the past 7 years to settle lawsuits arising from police misconduct. Gresham believes those costly settlements may be more effective than a consent decree.
The more money that police misconduct costs the city, the harder it's going to be for the city's politicians to remain inactive about bad and discriminatory policing.
And Geoff joins us now live here on the town hall. So Geoff, back to that major lawsuit here and the desire to bring reform as a result of it. What specifically would the litigants like to see happen here?
Well, Mal Helcher says that the evidence her team has gathered so far indicates the city is well aware of ongoing discriminatory practices by its police officers and by its highest leadership. And what they want is financial compensation for those who say Buffalo police violated their civil rights, but they also want that consent decree.
Something we will continue to follow. Geoff Kelly reporting live for us, investigativepost.org, with an even more in-depth look at this topic. Geoff, thanks for your time.
My pleasure.